Hello, and thanks for joining Southeast Speaks, a work of the Southeast Institute of Biblical Studies. Once a week, we meet with students, faculty, alumni, and friends who support the work of training gospel preachers. Enjoy today's discussion, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hi, this is Greg Wanderman, and I am here with Southeast Speaks, a work of the Southeast Institute of Biblical Studies. And today we are here with Doug Tooley. Doug, hi. Good to have you with us.
How you doing, Greg?
Good to have you in our little makeshift studio here today.
That's pretty neat.
Well, good to have you here, and glad that you made the trip. Doug is here in two capacities today, right?
Right.
Okay, so as the not only as a graduate of the East Tennessee School of Preaching and Missions from 2013, you are the minister at the Rivergate Church of Christ?
That's correct.
How many folks are at that congregation now?
Well, that's a good question. With the COVID thing, it's kind of hard to tell, but if we went back to before COVID, we were running somewhere around 240 to 250, and we're probably maybe around 60 to 70% of that right now.
Okay, great. And I guess another capacity you're here in, of course, is as the president of the Alumni Association.
That's correct.
And how long have you been doing that?
Since I think this is actually the third year, since we didn't have a lectureship last year, so this is my third year doing that.
And appreciate your service in that capacity, and we thank you from the school, and as a former graduate, of course, appreciate the work that you're putting into the Alumni Association.
Appreciate that.
So today, while you're here, I grabbed you, pulled you in,
Right.
and wanted to just ask you some questions. Here at Southeast Speaks, one of the things that we're doing is to talk with alumni and students, faculty, and friends of the school, and just kind of figure out, first of all, what you're up to and how things are going, and then want to talk with you a little bit about your experience here at the school.
Sure. Sounds good.
All right, good. First, tell us about your family.
Well, I've got three kids, Logan, Aubrey, and Sadie, and my wife, Carla. They're back in the Nashville area this week, and she's running them around too. Well, Logan's driving now, but he runs cross country, and he's doing track, so they've got some of that going on. And then Sadie and Aubrey's both playing softball, so Carla's a busy person while Doug's out of town. So
Busy. Doug's getting to play.
That's right. Somebody's got to take care of business, I guess.
Let's start with, tell me why you wanted to become a preacher.
Well, I started, me and Carla were living in the Glasgow area, and we went to a little congregation that they didn't have a full-time preacher, so they had two guys that came, and they alternated Sundays. And so when there was a fifth Sunday, we didn't have a preacher, so we had to either find somebody else or somebody had to fill in, and that was kind of how I got started. And of course, Steve Higginbotham, who is the preacher at Carnes now, he was living in the area at the time, and I kind of a mentor to me while we were living in Glasgow. So yeah. That's how I got started. So, and
why did you make that decision? Why did you want to become a preacher?
Well, I just felt like I started listening to. This is coming back to Steve again, but he'd given me some old lectureship CDs, and I listened to some guys like Johnny Ramsey and some preachers of the past. And I just kind of felt like that if I had the ability to do it, then I should be trying to teach at least, or to preach. I just felt like that, I felt compelled, I guess, to do my part of, maybe sharing with others what I had.
It's almost impossible to listen to Johnny Ramsey sermons and not want to become a preacher, isn't it?
I think you're right.
My mother-in-law shared with me a lot of Johnny Ramsey stuff when I was first studying and becoming a Christian, and maybe that's why I became a preacher too. I don't know.
That's great. Might be.
It's good stuff. What about East Tennessee? I mean, obviously, I guess you had the connection with Steve, but why'd you choose at the time East Tennessee School of Preaching?
Well, Steve he had just taken the job over here, and he said, you guys should just move And I was like, no, I don't think so. And the place I was working started talking about moving their operations to Mexico. And so we were thinking about, schools of preaching, and we looked at some different ones and things like that. To me, it seemed like a well-balanced school, and that's kind of what I was looking for. A place that, I could go and get a good education preaching. I looked at some that you could do online and actually did some online stuff. But for me, the online for preaching school, I just couldn't get what I felt like I really needed. And with the balance at East Tennessee, it seemed like a good spot. And after I got here, I felt the same way, that it was a good place to get education and some, not just Bible knowledge, but also practical stuff that I've been able to take with me.
What would you say is something that you learned here at Southeast that is most useful in your ministry?
Well, I mean, the Bible knowledge that I got obviously is very useful, because you think, when I was in school, I thought, well, when I get out, I'll study what I want to. And I'm not saying I don't study, but it's challenging to find the time that I had, while I was here at school, to really just sit down day after day and night after night and study either the Bible or things connected to the Bible. And so, that's been very useful to me. But I also feel like that I got a lot of practical knowledge from different preachers that were teaching the classes here, that I've been able to just tidbits of knowledge that I picked up from things that they had told me they did in the past or that they were currently doing. And maybe that practical is, one of the best things. And I don't know if it's just the location of this school, but I assume it's still this way. But there were a lot of congregations in the area that allowed the preachers to come and fill in. And for me, that was it was a great opportunity to get some experience.
We are going to pause here for just a second for a special message, and then we will be right back.
Hello, my name is Will Hanstein, and I'm the Executive Director of the Southeast Institute of Biblical Studies in Knoxville, Tennessee. In Matthew chapter 9, verses 37 and 38, Jesus says, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Therefore beseech the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest." In these two verses, Jesus communicates a very important concept to us. The problem is not with the amount of people who would be willing to obey the gospel. The problem is with the amount of people who would be willing to go and teach the gospel to them. So let me ask you a very important question. Have you considered becoming a gospel preacher? Here at Southeast, we have a no-cost, in-depth program of Bible study where you will learn how to communicate the gospel more effectively. At the end of your 2 years here, you will be awarded with a Bachelor of Biblical Studies degree, and we will help you find a sound congregation with which you can work. So let me ask you again, not have you considered becoming a gospel preacher, but would you consider becoming a gospel preacher? If so, visit our website at makingpreachers.com and fill out an application there. Come to Southeast, where preachers are made.
And we're back with Doug Tooley, the minister at the Rivergate Church of Christ and the president of the Alumni Association here at Southeast. He is a graduate of the East Tennessee School of Preaching and Missions, our former name, from 2013. What would you say is the biggest challenge to you in seeking and saving the lost today?
Just finding a way to get people interested in listening. It seems like that, when I look at the history of the church and going back, say, if we just went back to, say, the 1950s, it seems like that people were more open and willing to, say, let Greg Wonderman or Doug Tooley come in their home with Joel Miller film strips and sit down and study the Bible. But it almost seems like that I said my issue was time, but I think that that's what they're struggling with. It's time. And people feel like they don't have time to sit down, and people are not looking to invite people into their homes. It seems like the way that people used to be. So for me, it's a difficulty of getting people to be interested in taking the time to study the Bible. When I found people that were willing to give me the time, then I've been successful. But just getting in the door.
A lack of individuals who maybe are trusting and willing, to open up and to. These days, everybody's suspicious of everything, of course. Fake news.
Yes. I mean, because there are so many, how long can you go without getting a phone call that's somebody trying to sell you a warranty on a car that you don't even own anymore? And so
I get about 15 a day.
Right. You go knock on somebody's door and they immediately think you're trying to sell them a bug, warranty or just all those different things like that. So yes, I think that makes it more challenging.
Now, I'm not sure I can sit down and talk with you unless I also talk about another part of your success story, and that is you dropped a couple of pounds.
Yeah, I did.
What was your total weight loss?
Oh, it was, I actually hit about 330 at one time. And when I was at the lowest, I was around 175. Right now, I run about 180, so quite a bit of difference.
And that was while you were in school here.
That's
right.
when you talking about when I was the heaviest?
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's a danger for preachers, isn't it?
It is.
Especially when you come here to the school. I know I put on some weight when I was at the school here as well, but just sort of sitting down and studying all the time and being in class all the time, you really have to be diligent about that, don't you?
Right. And if you're not careful, you'll find yourself cutting your sleep and, things like that. It tends to want to cause you to eat, I guess. So. Yeah, and
I just want to eat anyway.
Well, I know, and that's the thing about living close to Knoxville. It seems like you've got plenty of places to choose from, so definitely got to be careful.
So what do you do now to stay fit?
Well, mostly run. I got hooked up with a running club in the area where I live, and so I mostly run, but I'm doing a little bit of cycling and lift weights when I have time to fit that in, so...
I think I saw you posted the other day something about let's see, now, did you do a half marathon or?
Yeah, and I actually just did a half marathon yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, good thing you're not tired from that.
Right.
Well, tell me about if you were going to suggest to a young man that he would come to Southeast, what do you think is one of the biggest benefits of the school here?
Well, I mean, first of all is that he's not going to walk away with years of debt because, I mean, most universities, it's very expensive to go to school. And yes, there is some involvement of raising funds, but as when I went to school, I was able to find help from, advice from the school and people that they kind of pointed me toward and things like that. But I think going away debt-free and starting your life in a great profession, that's a pretty nice benefit.
To a guy who is thinking about, I can just study the Bible on my own or I can be self-taught, what is the experience here? Using the experience here, what would you say to such an individual?
Well, you can do that, but to me, it's kind of like thinking about I could go and learn how to play golf. But, if you go to a pro, he might pick out some things that you're doing because he's been looking at it for 30 years already, and you're trying to figure all that stuff out again. And similar thing with sitting under, wise men that have been teaching. But then when you add in the other students, you've got all those different perspectives. And they're going to ask questions that are probably going to be things that, it might take you 20 years to think about something from that standpoint. And when you're in those classes and you got people throwing in those different views and perspectives, I think that helps to prepare you, especially for teaching Bible classes where you may have members asking things that I think all of us seem to be a little bit one track in our thinking without we've got people pulling us in different directions, and I think that's a good experience.
As president of the Alumni Association, What would you say to fellow alumni as to why they should be involved with the school and why they should be a part of what it is that that we're doing here, and to help and support the work?
Well, I mean, if you were just sitting down with someone and you said, "What do you think the Brotherhood needs more of?" How many people are going to say preachers? And so we can sit back and say we need preachers, but who's going to be the one to? Are we going to encourage people from our congregations to go to school? Are we going to try to support a school? Are we going to try to support a student? Are we going to encourage other people to do that? So I don't think you could get a person out there that's a preacher to say that we don't need more preachers. It's obvious, but what are we doing about it? I guess that's the question. And to me, Southeast is a really good place to come and get a balanced education and let a man go out, like we said, debt-free, to start out helping a congregation somewhere.
All right, Doug, it's been great having you today. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule, and I hope you enjoy the lectureship while you're here.
No problem. Thanks. I enjoyed it, Greg.
Thanks again for joining us today on Southeast Speaks, and we hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, be sure to like, share, and why not subscribe so you can get notified when we have interviews with students, faculty, alumni, and supporters of Southeast. Thank you, and have a blessed day.